Hi, it's Tracy. Welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. This week we are thrift shopping in Cornwall. There'll be a full reveal of all my purchases. We'll be doing makeovers, styling, and going down to my storage shed and reorganising that. Lots going on, so stay tuned. We've travelled from the southeast to the southwest, from Sussex to Cornwall, and in particular to St Ives. This is where we stay every year. We normally come down in the January, and it's just a lovely time of year to be in Cornwall. Of course, the furry supervisor is with us, so come on, Bertie, off that beach, let's go shopping. This first shop is a relatively new addition to St Ives. It's been here about 18 months, and I scored very well in here last year. So let's go and have a rummage and see what we can find. If you saw my last Christmas decorating video, you will know that I scored really big on red transfer wear at the end of 2024. If you were handy with a sewing machine, I think this children's lederhosen would make a fabulous bag. We are still in the same store. The treasures just keep coming. Bertie insisted that I show you this. Well, the bar has been set very high, so we're going to leave St Ives now and we're going to head off to some other towns and villages. Let's have a good old rummage. Obviously, the furry supervisor has to inspect absolutely everything. Should we buy this one, Bertie? Do you think? Yes? No? Charity shops in the UK are so small in comparison to the big Goodwill stores that you have out in America. This is another of my favourite charity shop in Cornwall. This is for Cornwall Hospice Care, and it's the same as the one in St Ives. We're now in Falmouth. And again, they design and display so well. But in this one, the prices can be a little bit punchy, so you do have to be careful. Bertie loves these shopping trips because he generally gets treats. Nearly every shop has a bag of little doggy biscuits behind the till, and boy does he know it. We are seeing a huge amount of blue and white china on this trip. Is that something you collect? Here we've got a collection of cabbageware. Now, it's not something I've ever collected. I don't really know much about it, so I don't know if these are good or bad prices. You can also get lettuceware, evidently. Well, that's a new one on me. Every day's a school day. The more I look at this, the more I really like it, and I could very much see it displayed with white and wood. So I think it's something I am definitely going to gen up on. You never know. Watch this space. You might be seeing a lot of lettuceware and cabbageware appearing. There was a huge amount of stock in this shop and beautifully displayed, but the prices were more like antique shop prices. A little bit too punchy for me. Plus they wouldn't let Bertie in, so we quickly went elsewhere. That's my kind of sign. Sadly, this wasn't £1, it was in a different shop. Time to say goodbye to Cornwall, Bertie. Let's go home. Well, that was a fun trip. I love going down to Cornwall. Let's see what I got. First up, the jug. Now, when I saw this, I thought instantly, oh, I'll do my faux stone effect. But actually, now I've got it back and had a closer look at it, I quite like it as it is. It's really useful just in the cream. There is a bit of gold on it, but it's wearing away and it's got that lovely vintage look to it. Now, it was with a big bowl, and originally they'd had them marked up at £20. This was £5, and of course I got the bowl as well. And here it is. At first, again, I thought faux stone effect, but actually, the more I look at it, the more I think, no, I think I'll leave it as it is. It would also be lovely as a spring planter for in the house. You know, I like to do bulbs and things like that. It's old, it's got a maker's mark on the bottom, and I think for £5, you can't really go wrong, can you, with something that size? So yes, this is definitely going to be appearing in my spring decorating. Next up is another jug. They're such good sizes, these jugs, and for just £5 each, it would be crazy to leave them behind. Do you think how much you would go into a normal store and pay for a jug this size as a decorative item? It's watertight, it's going to be great for all types of arranging, but the style is not really my cup of tea, the design on it. So this will get a faux stone effect on it. Now, it came with a bowl, the two for £10. There's a little story behind the bowl. Let me show you. Here is the bowl. Oh, my lordy me. Do you have a really helpful partner that is a klutz? Because I do. He insisted on loading the car when we were coming back, and he went and damaged this. And then he tried to deny it, and he travelled 6 hours knowing this was broken in the back of the car. And he brought it into the house when we got home and said, oh, Bertie must have stood on this. He tried to blame the dog. It's outrageous. So it was only £5, but I can't just let it go to the bin. So I've been out and bought some glue. The glue costs more than the dish, but then I thought, well, I have got other things I can repair. I can use the glue. So yeah, we're going to have a go at gluing this back together, and then I'll do the faux stone effect on it. Meet the new man in my life. Oh, that's six-pack. This is Bruce. Isn't he fabulous? £5. Super lightweight, but I'm going to make him look stone. I think he's going to be perfect for the faux stone effect. Maybe even have him up on top of the dresser. And of course, super light. It's going to be fabulous moving it around. So here we go, the new addition, Bruce. So you've met Bruce, meet Babs. I've got to say, I've got bosom envy. Very pert bosoms. Can you remember at school? I don't know whether you did this at school or not. Let me pop Babs down, bless her. You used to do the pencil test, you know, where you could put a pencil under your boobie, and if it dropped, it meant you had a pert bosom, or breasticles, as we like to call them. I mean, as time goes on, you end up being able to hold the whole pencil case. But I think she is going to be fabulous with my outdoor stone effect. So I can see her living out on one of the verandas or in the kitchen courtyard. I don't know, we might do the internal stone effect. I got this super heavy terracotta pot for just £6. In fact, I'm just going to put it down because it really is heavy. Now, this doesn't need a stone effect. You'll be relieved to know there are other techniques coming up. This one, I think, because it's got so much lovely texture on it, I think we're probably going to paint and wax this one. So we went down to Falmouth and I'm looking at this item in a shop, and my husband is across the way and he sent me a look, shaking his head like he thought it was a toilet plunger, toilet unblocker. It's not. It's a very old washing dolly. You would use it to agitate the water and the clothes and work the soap around. I just thought it was really unusual. It's brass, it's got a nice old handle. I am probably going to pop some dark wax, I think, on there and just bring that, although I normally like things really light, I think this one would benefit from being a little bit darker. So we'll have a little tweak with that one. And in the same store, I found this candle snuffer. Now, I thought this was unusual because it's such a long handle. Ideal for if you've got candles up high, chandelier type candles. So I'm going to leave the length because I think that's quite unusual. I don't see them with long handles very often. And again, I think because this is pine, I think it's pine. It's very orangey anyway. I'm probably going to just use some dark wax on it just to bring that down and make it look a little bit more antique-y. Next up is this vintage enamel pot. Now this is Judgeware. It's an English brand. It's vintage. Black is not normally my thing, but I just thought it was so cute and that lovely handle that I couldn't leave it behind. Obviously, I'd like it to be a cream or a brown, which would coordinate more. But I think this would make a lovely planter. Will I change the colour? Possibly not. I don't know yet. I'll give it a good wash and then we will see. But I can imagine this being used to plant up for the spring decorating. I love a £1 for everything day in stores, and I found this lovely heavy rolling pin for just £1. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I do pick up these rolling pins. Tend to give them a good sand back to take off any wax or oil that's on there. And then I finish them off in a white oil and I use them decoratively. So this one may well go through the same process and end up with the collection that I have in the cottage. Now, when I'm out thrift shopping, I just cannot resist looking at wood, my wood dar, as I call it. This is a book stand. I would assume it's a book stand. There were a few other people in the shop and we had a debate about it. And we thought, well, no, we think it's definitely for standing books on. £3.50. It's a beautiful old piece of timber. And yes, we'll maybe either leave it as it is or take it down and then change the colorway of it. But there'll be no paint on this whatsoever. But yeah, I just can't resist anything natural and particularly wood. Are you the same? Do you make a beeline for anything wood in a shop? Maybe it's just me then. Carrying on with the wooden theme, I picked up this riser for just £10. Now it's a really good solid weight. It's not like the flimsy modern stuff that you see around. This is probably a little bit too shiny, a little bit too dark for me. So I think maybe the oven cleaner might bring this down, and then we'll be using this in all sorts of styling all year round. More wood. Now, I was umming and ahhing in the shop with this. I kept picking it up, putting it down. It's very light, and they wanted £7 for it. Now, the shop assistant came over and said, why was I not going to buy it? And I said, really, it's just too light. I don't really think it's worth £7. So she said, look, lots of people have done the same thing. So would you take it for 3? Absolutely, I would. And I think you've always got to remember that an object is only worth what somebody's prepared to pay for it. So be that in regular retail, be that in the charity shops, be that the world over, it's only worth what somebody wants to pay for it. And for them to take £3 is better than it just sat there, nobody taking it. So I got a dealio. I'm happy with that. What am I going to do with it? Don't know yet. It's a modern piece. Is it worth my time stripping it down or maybe painting it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But before we get to the makeovers, I want to take you down to my storage shed. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I've got an area down in the garden where I have some storage sheds. And the biggest one is where I store lots of things that are waiting for makeovers and so on. It's getting rather full and disorganized. So we're going to put some organizational systems in there now.
This is so disorganized. Everything is piled up on top of each other. It's really difficult to get around. This is where I store everything that I pick up at auction, that I can use in my styling, that's waiting for some kind of transition. It's just chaos at the moment. It's been driving me insane. It's also very dark. So I came across these camping lamps. Now, they are actually fairy lights. You can pull out 30 foot of fairy lights from them, but they have multi-functions. You can even use them as a power pack to charge your mobile phone if you're out and about. They are rechargeable, so there's no batteries or anything like that, and they work as great spotlights and various bits and bobs. Really useful bit of kit. I have invested in some shelving. That's what's in those very long boxes. And there are also a huge amount of clear plastic containers with lids in the cardboard boxes. I've taken out items just from one end because it is winter, the weather's changing all the time. So I've cleared an area so I can actually build the shelving, and then everything else I've just shoved down the other end, just so if the weather does turn, I can get everything back in really quickly. The units that I've bought were from a company called Racking Solutions, so they are commercial grade. I'm going to hover the camera just over the dimensions and so on for those of you that are interested in all the technical stuff. And there are very similar units available on Amazon. Now, this is all stainless steel. I didn't want to go with anything with timber, with ply. I know a lot of these shelving units come with ply, but because this is a shed, there's no heating in here, and I didn't want anything sort of degrading over the years. This will last for donkey's years. So they were very, very simple to put together once I'd worked out the heights of each shelf. And obviously I use the plastic tubs as a guide there. I can't tell you how relieved I am to have finally got round to this job. I am by nature a neat freak. I know you wouldn't think so, judging by the state of the shed. But I do like order. I like everything to have a place and a place for everything. Now, the other great thing with this shelving is that obviously it's metal, and these little lights have magnets on the back. So they're really handy. I will link them below because they were from Amazon. Lovely bit of kit. Over in this corner, I have got all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. When I buy job lots at auction, I quite often find random pieces in there, and I don't throw them away because I don't like throwing things away. Invariably, they just end up down here. So every now and then I have a roundup of all the odds and sods, things that I think might have a little bit of value to them. And then I donate them to my local charity shop. pulled together a few boxes of bits and bobs, plus a cupboard that I don't particularly want anymore, but hopefully it'll find its way into a child's bedroom. Finally, I can see where everything is, and most importantly, I can actually move around. Now, this is not the finished article. It is going to be a work in progress, a continuous work in progress, I think. I've utilised the rafters as well, put nails and screws up there so I can hang things from it. I think visually that works really well as well. But most of all, I love the fact that I've actually got floor space and I can walk around and just get to every single little bit. And there are so many items that I thought, oh, I forgot about you. Oh yeah, we'll do a makeover on you. So I think I could do a whole episode. I could do a whole series of making over everything that's in the storage shed. I'd be at it for months. So have a little rummage around. Tell me what you fancy me making over next. I love that I've still got some empty boxes as well, because I have lots of things stored in the cottage at the moment. So again, I need to have another really good sort through, but I think when the weather's warmer, we'll be having a go. Now, Bertie's telling me it's time for makeovers. So let's start off by trying to glue this dish back together, this bowl. Oh my lordy me. Disclaimer here, I am not the best gluer in the world. We will do our best, and if it does hold, then obviously we're going to be doing the faux stone effect on it. So if the repair is a bit scrappy, then it doesn't really matter. The main thing is just to get it to stick together. On the plus side, it has got a bowl shape again. I wasn't lying when I said I was a bit of a pants gluer. I mean, look, I'm left with one piece and it just doesn't fit in the hole. Hello. So what I'm going to do is use sellotape. I was looking for the thinnest tape that I have, and it was sellotape. And so we're going to do the faux stone effect on this. Now, I've got everything out that I'm going to do a makeover on. These pieces are all going to have different effects, and these here are just going to get a jolly good soapy wash, including the book stand, because I just don't know what to do with it. So at the moment, it's just going to get a wash. Now, we're going to start with the Easy Fill 20. 20 means that it is a fast setting 20 minutes. We've got my spatula out, something to mix, some water, and then a whole mix of herbs, spices, soil, grout, basically raiding the storage cupboard. I've got gloves, I've got an overshirt because it will get messy, and a cloth. Now, I know lots of my regular viewers have tried this technique and love it, but if you're new, here is a quick run through. So you mix up with water till you get to a nice gloopy consistency, and then you slap it on and dab it on and just keep working it around your vessel, whatever it is you are going to be covering. And this will stick to anything. I am yet to find a material that it won't adhere to. Now, I'm working compost in here. You could use soil, dirt out of the ground. I'll keep on using the hairdryer or a heat gun just to start that drying process and keep on working in different herbs and spices as I'm going around. The hairdryer as well will blow off any excess. Although, don't do what I did earlier and then direct the hairdryer to where all my little pots were and everything shot along the table. Yeah, that was a bit of a boo-boo. Once I've got the outside of the vessel done, I've very carefully flipped it over and then I'm just going to repeat the process on the inside, paying particular attention to where all the glued, cracked areas are and over that sellotape. I'm just making sure that it is completely covered in that area. Once it's all smoothed down, I find it's easier to move around on a tray or a plate. And then I'm going to pop it on my range overnight, which is warm. It's on all the time. It will dry out. And as it dries out overnight, it lightens. Now I'm going to do exactly the same process with the jug, so I won't go through it all again. One thing I will mention, though, with jugs, with vases, you need to make a decision as to what you're going to do with the top, with the lip. How far in, if at all, you're going to go. Personally, I like to go in just enough to make sure that the original pot is not visible when it's all dressed with whatever it is you're going to put in it. Now, if you are new to this process and you've not seen this before, I will link a proper full tutorial down below in the description box. Now, Bruce, my darling, time for me to get my hands on you. Think he's a new man. He needs a little bit more smoothing down, drying overnight, and then he will be good to style with. Okay, Babs, my love, you're up next. And wow, don't you look expensive? I've left the opening exposed on both of them in case I ever want to hang them. The sun has come out. We are between two storms, so let's make the most of it outside. We're going to work on wood outside. So first thing to do with this little wooden riser is to take the sticky labels, the sticky cushion pads that were on the feet. I was thinking about using the oven cleaner, but once I got the sander on it, I thought I'd just have a little test with it. And it stripped it back beautifully, so there was no need to go down the chemical route with it. I just finished it off as well with a little bit of hand sanding. Once all that was cleaned, I coated the whole thing in Annie Sloan dark wax. Next up is the candle snuffer. I'm just going to use a 120 grit sandpaper over that wooden handle and then finish it off with dark wax. The washing dolly is going to get the same treatment, only I'm going to bring the wax down over the brass head as well. I'm using 120 grit to hand sand the rolling pin. And I also found another one in the back of the garage that I'd picked up some time ago and completely forgotten about it. So I'm going to do the same effect on both. I'm using Osmo white oil stain, painting it on, and then wiping the excess off once I'd got the colour intensity that I needed and left them to dry overnight before styling with them. Now, I did say I wasn't going to sand this one, but it was outside and I couldn't resist having a little tiddle with it, but it wasn't playing ball, so it was back into the house and the chalk paint came out. I used 2 coats of Annie Sloan Original. When it was thoroughly dried, I then distressed and waxed. The £6 terracotta pot next. Now, the original Annie Sloan was already out, so I decided that I would cover it in that. Now, original, I don't tend to use a lot of. This is actually an old tin. I'm just finding ways of using it up at the moment because I don't like waste. I am going to cover this in wax after I've put 2 coats on, obviously drying thoroughly in between coats. And so when you put the wax on, it completely changes the shade of the paint. So it's a good way to use up a paint colour that you're not over fond of. So here's the before shot of our disparate items, and with a little makeover, they are now a cohesive bunch ready for styling. And the broken bowl that could have gone straight into the bin is now going to take pride of place on the table. this pot turned out so well that it can hold its own without adornment. And as for these two, look out in my spring summer decorating. They will be making an appearance. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet again, take care. God bless.